All right, you guys can hear me, of course. So good afternoon, everyone. I know it's been a very long day, and I also do understand that I'm here standing between you guys and the happy hour. So, definitely going to make this very interesting, informative, a lot of key takeaways from this session. My name is Venkat Raghav. I'm a partner at IBM. I also have with me two wonderful co-speakers today, and they'll be coming up on the stage and introducing themselves. So today's session is about an offering that we're going to launch. In fact, we just launched. So it's called IBM Consulting Platform Services on AWS. It's an offering that we co-created where we are bringing AWS native capabilities along with IBM Consulting assets as well as IBM products. So we'll be talking more about the offering itself as well as the successful MVP that we completed for Johnson & Johnson. So we'll be going through a case study. We'll be showing you a demonstration of that as well. But before that, when I talk about offering, it's not a typical managed services offering, as you would think, in that mostly it is about a product-driven, an asset-driven offering, you would say. Because 70 to 80% of the capabilities and functionalities are coming out of the box, while 20 to 30% of it is being tailored for individual client requirements and their needs and technology stacks and everything else. So, like I said, I will be covering more about the offering itself, and then we'll be talking about the Johnson & Johnson case study. Before we do move on, I would like to quickly talk about AWS and IBM partnership for a few minutes here. IBM and AWS have always had a very steady and healthy partnership. And since 2019, it's just kind of taken off. It was 2020 around the time when our current CEO, Arvind Krishna, took over. And his strategy around hybrid cloud and AI, in fact, the 10 strategic partnerships, AWS was one of them. So through such executive client commitments and as well our client commitments, so we've been able to jointly and successfully implement a lot of client projects. And overall, from an IBM Consulting standpoint, we have a special business unit for AWS in itself. So that kind of reinforces our commitment towards meeting our clients at the cloud platform of their choice. From an overall inorganic growth standpoint, our acquisitions, which have been recently made, Towers and NordCloud, it brings into IBM Consulting those cloud service or native cloud service capabilities, which bring a higher value to our clients as well. The certifications and competencies, we have surpassed the 15,000 mark as far as certifications are concerned. 14 competencies and 16 delivery programs across IBM Consulting as well as software and products. Last but definitely not the least is our offerings. So a lot of focus on the industry offerings. We have, as of now, around 30 offerings that we have launched, and we are just getting started here. But talking about a partnership between two large organizations such as IBM and AWS, you would always think that there are too many things that we're bringing together. But that's not really the case, because when our managing partner, Mahmood, took over this role of leading this partnership, he was very, very upright and very focused on 5 key areas. SAP, IBM being the largest install basis for SAP, modernization, data and technology transformation, Red Hat OpenShift service on AWS, as well as security. IBM is one of the largest SIs who are fully compliant with AWS's well-architected framework. I did talk about our acquisitions as far as the growth commitment is concerned, but it doesn't just stop at that. So there is quite a lot of investments being made for joint go-to-market, as well as key technical skills around architecture and SREs as well. So just to sum it all up, IBM being a premier consulting partner to AWS, we are not just focused on building skills or competencies. We are rather focusing a lot on building industry-focused offerings as well. And one such offering is what we are going to really showcase today. And before we go deeper into what the offering looks like and the technicalities behind the offering and the case study, I would like to invite the second speaker of the day, Atul, to come talk more about what were the challenges that they faced at Johnson & Johnson. So, Atul, if you can please come up. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Atul Sharma.
Good start.
I manage ERP platforms and application at J&J. And J&J, as you might know, is the world's renowned healthcare company. It operates in pharmaceutical, medical devices, and consumer divisions. It sells its products in 175 countries. And you can well imagine what kind of supply chain system it must be operating. Just to give you the perspective, the supply chain system that spans across 4,000 plus servers. We manage 20,000 plus changes every year. Every day, we run 95,000 batch schedule, 10,000 plus integration, 2 petabyte of data. So it's a complex end-to-end technology stack. And reliability of the supply chain system is key for the product flow for Johnson & Johnson. So when I took over this job, with my kind of luck, we had 19 outages in the first month. So, and most of these outages were simple in nature. Like we were unable to print delivery notes, unable to ship products. Sometimes we were unable to even print paychecks, again causing compliance and all kind of issues. So most of these outages are related to the lack of observability solution which have been put in place. Either they are there, and they don't work, they don't lead to the root cause analysis, or they're not there at all. So what are the challenges with observability and reliability? If you think about it, it's like building a car with no sensors in it. So you never know when you're going to run out of the gas, right? So that's what happens when you're building a product. If it is an afterthought, you will never going to get the right product, right? So it can never be an afterthought. What happens is when you build a product, reliability, when it goes into production, becomes actually most important. But actually, when you're building the product, your cost takes the precedence, and you basically don't build a reliable product. So it can never be an afterthought. My advice is if you're building a product, make sure the observability is the forefront of the product which you are building. So the challenges which are having in observability, either we don't have these alerts or sensors configured, and if they're configured also, they are not actually, as I said, they are not leading towards the root causes. And ultimately, the customer gets impacted, the product flow gets impacted. From reliability perspective, we are measuring it in technical silos. What I mean is like whenever a outage happens, we all get on a call, and network guy says, you know what, my network is working great. Database guy says my database is working good, but issue still remains, right? It's like you have like your heart working, your kidney working, but the patient is there. That's kind of scenario which we operate in. And also, we perform high number of changes, 20,000 plus changes every year. That's huge number of changes. And when people log into the server, they do commit mistakes. Ideally, I would like to have observability solution, which is basically able to self-heal, identify the problem and self-heal those problems. That's the kind of solution I would like to have. And from reporting perspective, too many alerts. Like if you work in the database world, if your archive destination is full, you're going to get file system alert, you're going to get archive destination alert, and also you're going to say, okay, database is down alert. That means you're relying on human to basically detect and find out what the actually root cause is and then address it. And when they do it, they do commit human errors, right? So reporting is key there. Other thing which is very important is we are unable to actually relate your business metrics with your technical metrics, right? And that's what exactly Mahindra is going to talk about from observability perspective, how we brought all this together where we are able to correlate this event and actually start pointing to the root causes. Mahindra.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me clear? Great. Atul, thank you very much. My name is Mahindra. I lead a group of technologists and solution architects supports the IBM partnership. And as Atul said, and Atul, I'm going to borrow your parallel. I hope you're not going to charge me royalty. It's like building the car without sensors, right? Now, why does observability matter? Let's look at that. I mean, in terms of actually, why should we spend money on it? Why should we spend our time and effort on it? First and foremost thing is obviously the downtime, right? This is something which the data is available in terms of, okay, what is the average cost? What is the average number of hours? But that's not all, right? Downtime is only one aspect of the side of the main causes why we should worry about observability. The other things are actually, especially in the internet world, let's imagine you are a retail organization. This is a Thanksgiving season. I'm sure a lot of us would have done a lot of shopping, right? If a customer comes onto your e-commerce platform and either they are not able to actually browse the products very quickly or not able to make a payment, that actually kind of leads to alienation. We are living in a world of internet. Just imagine typically customers are definitely not going to forgive, and more than that, they can get onto the internet, talk about actually what kind of an experience they have. This leads into a brand alienation. This is a significant damage, right? Now, let's look at actually what kind of an impact it delivers onto the business, right? As Atul said, if you are sitting in a car which doesn't have the sensors, you have no visibility. Whether your fuel is out, maybe your lubricant is out, whether your brake fluid is working or not. So getting that visibility across your estate, right, from an application and infrastructure point of view, and even the data point of view is extremely important. Now, let's assume that, okay, we have the visibility. Does it solve the problem? The answer is no. Because a lot of times, going back to my earlier example, yeah, maybe the customers are experiencing a challenge in terms of making a payment. You should be able to kind of troubleshoot in real time, right? And understand where the problem is. Now, the third aspect is, once you identify the problem, are you able to improve the customer experience in real time? Are you able to fix the problem in real time? This is another major business impact, okay? If as a retail organization, if you are in a situation, the moment you found that your performance of your e-commerce application is not up to the mark, and if you are able to fix it in real time and improve it, that's a significant impact on the business. Last but not least, I think Atul pointed it out to you, building the reliable applications, right? The application should be reliable and it should behave the way you expect it to behave. And these are the other major impacts an observability solution or observability capability can really create on the business. Now, while we're talking about observability, I just thought, okay, maybe let me create the standard definition. Let me share what we are talking about, or talking as observability, right? 3 parts to it. First one is the ability to detect when a problem happens, right? In terms of actually detecting also at the right place, right? Second is the investigation, right? Yes, my e-commerce site is slow, but where exactly the problem is happening? Is the problem at actually database access layer? Or is the problem at application layer? Or is the problem at a web layer? Or is it a network performance, right? That's where actually, in fact, I mean, I started my career as an SRE. I know MTTR clock always used to take for my SLA, and most of the time goes in the investigate phase. The third one is, once we identify the problem, we know where it is, can we fix it? Fix it faster. That is the short-term solution. But can we also do something to make sure that this problem doesn't happen again, right? As a longer-term solution. That's what we are calling as observability. Putting these 3 capabilities together is what we are calling as observability. Now, what do we have from AWS point of view? Now, this is an opinionated stack from our side, right? If a customer comes to us and asks us, hey, I wanted to kind of set up my observability capability, obviously we will recommend either something like an X-ray and obviously CloudWatch, as these services will provide you the capabilities in terms of an integrated experience, also actually kind of ability to scale. Now, having said that, we also understand a lot of our customers are having certain observability solutions in place. It can be an open source solution, right? I mean, let's talk about Grafana. or Prometheus. These are technologies which are available in open source and a lot of customers prefer them. Having said that, they would love to use those technologies, but they don't want to deal with the undifferentiated heavy lifting, like managing it at scale, right? So hence, we came up with these services, Amazon Managed Grafana, Amazon Managed Prometheus, right? So that customer can still leverage the technology which they want to leverage, but we will take care of actually the managing that at a scale and making them more reliable, right? Now, the third aspect with respect to our full stack on the observability is, observability when it comes to actually from an industry point of view, our view is we should be able to kind of leverage the open telemetry. A lot of these large enterprise customers like Johnson & Johnson will have a number of tools and technologies, right? So there should be a capability for the customers to leverage the open telemetry. That's the reason why we launched AWS Distro for open telemetry, so that we will be able to kind of integrate with the tools and technologies which customers have already. Now, obviously, these are all our services. The million-dollar question is why AWS observability services, right? First one is, I just would like to go back to the Atul's example. When a problem happens, right, does the customer has the ability of integrated observability experience, right? Or do they have to deal with a number of tools for infrastructure, application, data, which requires obviously a lot of complex landscape of tools and skill sets which are required to manage that. Systems Manager and X-Ray will give the customer the integrated experience of the observability. The second one is actually, it should be easy to collect the metrics, right? Whether the application workload is sitting on AWS or a partial part of the workload is sitting on-premise, the same tools and the same services should have the capability to kind of collect the metrics. And all the observability services, especially like actually CloudWatch logs or X-Ray, can collect those metrics and you can ingest them and you can analyze them. The third one, obviously, improve the operational performance and resource optimization. Now, from an operational performance point of view, let's say, for example, we found the problem as the CPU utilization. Can, in the real time, will I be able to scale it up? Can I add more CPUs? Or scale it down based on actually kind of, I think in the keynote, Adam referred to the Airbnb example. That's a classic example where you see in real time, you're able to either scale up or scale down. Now, that's what actually brings the operational efficiency and operational performance and resource optimization. And then the other one is getting the operational visibility and insights. Okay? And most importantly, getting the insight is one part of it. Are you able to act on the insight? And can you perform an action in real time and kind of actually address the need? So these are some of the key differentiators or reasons in terms of going with the AWS observability service offerings. Now, having said that, what kind of a customer impact we are seeing? Now, numbers are up there. I don't want to talk about the numbers, but I want to talk about the two reasons behind these numbers. One thing what tells me these numbers is how important it is as a capability. If this is the size and scale of what we are looking at it, you can assume actually how customers are perceiving observability as an important capability to have the reliability, to have the business impact, to make sure that they are able to kind of develop and deliver the reliable application capability for their end users. The second aspect is the scale. Now, this is today's scale. Just imagine actually kind of with more and more adoption to the cloud, the kind of scale we are going to see. And the services like X-Ray and Systems Manager or CloudWatch logs can scale up to this kind of a load or even much further. And most importantly, customer doesn't have to worry about managing that scale, right, or managing that complexity. Now, while you heard from Atul in terms of what kind of actually the challenges they are looking at, I just thought we'll share a little more about actually what kind of a challenges or requirements we are coming across from wider spectrum of customers. And thanks to IBM, our partner, they have an experience of actually running close to 1,000 AMS engagements across the globe with various vertical related, industry related customers. These are some of the key use cases which we are coming across. Full stack observability is something which every customer wants. They want to have an observability across application, infrastructures, network, all of the layers, right? Tool consolidation. Observability should be a seamless and an easy experience for customers. They don't want to deal with huge number of tools and managing those tools and having the people who has the capability across those tools, right? Third one, which is a very, very important one, because a lot of times observability kind of actually gets associated with more of operations and running the platforms, but having the DevOps capability and having the ability to pump in the changes at the scale, just imagine more than 20,000 changes is what J&J wants to do to their platforms in a year, which is significant. So, and also in ability to kind of have those modern application architectures is extremely important, right? Because the modern application architectures will involve containers, serverless, and you wanted to have the observability across all these application patterns or architecture patterns. So that's another important use case. And we talked about the e-commerce retail example, right? I mean, monitoring the real-time experience of a customer or an end user and improving that is also an important use case, right? Last but not least, as I said, customers want to have the observability capability, but it's not their core business at the end of the day. J&J's core business is actually serving their patients. They are not into the business of actually kind of developing or delivering the observability. So they wanted to have that services capability which can provide that managed services experience. Now, while Venkat will actually walk you through how the IBM and AWS joint offering, right? I mean, in terms of actually what we developed jointly, will address a lot of these use cases and more importantly, bolts on the AIOps capability on top of that. And the second topic obviously he covers is actually how we have addressed some of the J&J challenges. Now, a couple of points I wanted to make. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to address. Me and Venkat will be there after the session. If you have any questions around how that particular solution offering which IBM is presenting will address some of these use cases, or any of our opinionated stack will address some of these use cases. Most of these use cases are already there with today's release, if a couple of them which are coming up in next 6 months time frame. So with that, Venkat, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mahendra. That really sets the stage for introducing our offering called IBM Consulting Platform Services on AWS, or IBM Consulting PSA. Now, I believe that we humans, in whatever we do it for majorly two reasons. One is the real reason, the other is the good reason. Now, the real reason behind this offering is our clients. As Mahendra explained, there are a lot of complexities. You heard from Atul what the complexities are around applications and infrastructures, now trying to correlate data across all of these multiple systems that are completely disconnected. Now, the clients are looking for an accelerated journey towards digital transformation, but in an era after the pandemic where they are really cost sensitive as well. So with all the recessions and all of these kind of things that are happening, they are very much aware of the restrictions around how much they can spend on these transformations. So the good reason is IBM and AWS coming together. And you'll see, what this offering has to offer, actually. But, both the purposes are served here. One is through our assets, products, and the services capabilities within AWS. We are accelerating that journey, especially, trying to set that foundation up rather quickly and building the AIOps platform on top of it, as well as being sensitive to the cost, right? So when in the introduction, I spoke about bringing IBM products, IBM assets, as well as AWS services together. It's not just about bringing these products and services together. It's actually those hundreds of patterns, those templates, those models that we have harvested over working with hundreds of our clients, in fact, across technology stacks, across industries and geographies as well. So you heard from Atul, what those challenges at J&J being a public life sciences client. You can just imagine all the compliance requirements that they would be actually encountering on a day-to-day basis. So, how do we set up that foundation which will make the entire thing more reliable? And that's where IBM Consulting Assets play a big part here. So with IBM Consulting Assets, it's not just about acceleration, but it's also about filling that gap between what's available out of the box from all of these products and services versus what our clients are really looking for as their, some of the foundational service capabilities. Like I mentioned, being cost sensitive, it's also about reusing the investments that our clients have already made. So through AWS, we are just trying to reuse everything that is already available within the client environment. In fact, not just from the AWS services standpoint, it's flexible enough. The architecture itself is built on a purely microservices-based framework and is completely flexible to tailor to any use case that our clients may have, and also bring in any products that they already have that are even outside of IBM and AWS ecosystem. So you can literally plug and play with them. So what does it bring from a capability standpoint? I don't want to talk about observability anymore because Mahendra has already done a good job at that. But then, trying to bring in a little bit more perspective into this, it's just the intelligent way of monitoring. In the sense, you bring in a lot more correlation and insights into your monitoring. You bring in the automatic root cause identification as well. So our IBM Consulting PSA stack builds on top of this, brings in that AI ops capabilities end-to-end from an end-to-end platform services standpoint. And this is where we are building predictive and prescriptive capabilities and autonomous self-heal solutions. While I just mentioned that, yes, these are some of the things that are differentiating from what we are bringing as the offering here, the most important thing is to set up that foundation right. So instrumenting that end-to-end DevSecOps, instrumenting the entire data ops pipeline is also of utmost importance. And how can we do that in an accelerated manner? Because we do not have the luxury of spending years or months to set these things up. The other major component of this particular offering is the end-to-end visualization. As you all know, most of our enterprise scale clients are multi-vendor, multi-service provider ecosystem, and they do not like to see data in a siloed manner. Even though you may have data being collected from each of the systems separately and the insights being provided, it is about how can we bring all that data together, how can we correlate that data, and how can we ensure we apply the machine learning models on the data, and then provide them in a single pane view for consumption. If we have to draw out some of the products and services that we've been talking about for each of these layers, you will see mostly from the foundation standpoint, you have AWS services such as CloudTrail, CloudFormation, AWS DevOps tools, the AWS Lambda and the Insights, as well as Patch Manager. Monitoring is mostly led by AWS CloudWatch, along with AWS X-Ray. Config just runs across observability and monitoring there, with Systems Manager, Incident Manager, as well as Event Bridge from an AWS standpoint for observability. As far as our IBM Consulting Assets are concerned, they mostly play in the AIOps area. And we are also bringing in the Systems Manager, Amazon Lex, and DevOps Crew. For the end-to-end single pane visualization, we have our IBM Consulting asset called IBM IT Control Tower. While we have these as today's, as we speak in today's release, we are actually planning to bring in a lot more tools, products, and capabilities. So we have in the pipeline What's in AIOps from IBM, Turbonomic, and Instana. We do have AWS SageMaker as well as AppFlow. And then we have a couple of other consulting assets from our acquisitions like NotCloud, Clarity, and Maestro that are going to be introduced along with 6 other use cases. I'll be talking about a few use cases that we are going with for the first release, but 6 other use cases in Q1 next year. As far as the use cases are concerned, the first use case, we broadly have 4 major use cases for this particular release. So the first one is around incident analysis and management, bringing in capabilities such as SLA prediction and incident prediction, identification of the similar incidents, and we have prediction of right resolution groups, the end-to-end incident management in itself. So you can also see all the AWS services that are aligned to this particular use case, but it's mostly around incident collaboration. We call it the virtual command center, and you'll see a demonstration of that as well. RCA identification and bringing all into a single pane view. The second use case is observe and auto heal. This is where we do most of the noise reduction through event correlation deduplication, anomaly detection, outage prediction, and the autonomous self-heal through chat ops. So the key benefits that we are trying to get out of these two use cases are faster MTTI, D, and R, in the sense faster mean time to identify, detect, and resolve. That's the first focus here, along with improving the overall operational efficiencies and productivity, preventing outages, and improving the overall reliability and building those resilient systems across. The other two use cases are technically aligned in nature, even though they are separated as two separate use cases because of the fact that we mostly work with clients where we are only focused on application managed services or just infrastructure managed services. So for the purposes of it, we've split it into two, but in fact, technically, they're fully vertically aligned in the sense that it's all GitOps driven, pipeline and tool chain engineering, end-to-end for CI/CD, certified image deployments through vulnerability scans and linting and everything else, and one-click automation for those deployments. Like I mentioned earlier, this is the foundational layer, so the benefits mostly are aligned towards productivity, time to market, and reusability. And again, you'll see all the AWS services that was mentioned earlier, either from Mahendra's charts or mine, that are aligned to each of these use cases. So this is how the offering is set up, the capability stack, the technology stack, and the use cases. Now let me quickly jump into our use case, the MVP that we successfully completed for Johnson & Johnson. Atul did talk about how complex those application stacks were as far as those supply chain applications were considered. So we picked up one of those applications that was fully running on AWS, of course, interfacing with applications and middleware that were lying outside the environment as well. And as you can see here, there are multiple components of the application. You have the business objects and business intelligence, the business warehouse, you have Enterprise HANA and S4 HANA. Even though there was statistical data in each of these components, they were again siloed. So the first challenge was for us to propagate that context across. All these applications were front-ended by a digital portal also. So as soon as we instrumented observability end-to-end, the data that was collected was ingested into a common data store. And this data was mostly around topology information, user and session-related data, data related to statistics around expensive queries, et cetera. And from the common data store is where it got passed on to Operations Hub. This is one of the hubs of excellence that we have. So we have two. I'll be talking about the other one as well. But you can envision Operations Hub to be something like an end-to-end or a day in the life of an operations engineer. So what does that mean? As soon as an operations engineer detects an anomaly or an incident, they could go through it to ensure that it is fully resolved. So the Operations Hub helps them do that in real time or at least in near real time, like end-to-end context stitching, anomaly alerting, and once all the deduplication, correlation, and the reduction of the noise is done, if at all it comes out to be a real incident, it logs it automatically into a ticketing system. And as soon as an incident is logged in the ticketing system, we instantiate the virtual command center. And this is the ChatOps solution, basically, with Microsoft Teams being the front end, because that's the choice of collaborative tool that J&J uses, and Amazon Lex in the back end. So basically, you can think about, there is a demonstration of it, but to give a quick analysis or explanation of that, you can think about all the data that has been collected over time, whether they're related to the previous and similar incidents, historical data, all the resolution data, the RCA insights, everything is populated within the channel. And the right stakeholders from across the board, whether they are from one particular vendor or from multiple different vendors as well, are invited to that channel. They're provided with all these insights so that they can quickly get to the resolution of the problem. And eventually, the accuracy of the models are improved for it to be self-healed. The second hub of excellence within the PSA solution is the Insights Hub. Now, this is more of a retrospective solution in nature, in the sense all the data that have been collected and analyzed over time are fed into the Insights Hub so that the patterns are analyzed, the machine learning models, so first of all, creating those data sets, running them through deep learning frameworks, right? Applying the machine learning algorithms and models on them, and then trying to bring them all into a single pane view. All the insights and inferences that have been derived through them are brought into a single pane view so that our SREs or operational engineers can go in there and figure out what are those areas that can be automated. Because AI, Mahendra did talk about detect, investigate, and remediate. AI does the detect and investigate very well. Remediate has to be done by automation. So without automation, AI capabilities are just not that useful. Now this is, in a nutshell, what the solution was at Johnson & Johnson. I'll dig a little deeper into the solution as well. So this is how the overall ecosystem looked like. And you'll see two VPCs there. One is where the applications were running. That's the SAP VPC. And when the actual AIOps engine was, that's the AIOps VPC. So within the application VPC, like I explained earlier, how we collected data from each of those components were stored in an Enterprise HANA database. And from there, through RFC calls, we extracted that data into an ABAP scheduler, which was wrapped around Solution Manager. Now, all this was application-related data. In fact, not just the telemetry data from the application environments, but also going into the process level of observability as well. And at the same time, we also got data from our infrastructure monitoring alerts, mostly from CloudWatch, and SCOM was the other infrastructure monitoring tool that Johnson & Johnson used. Now, the data from both of these components or sources were correlated and then streamed into our AIOps engine through VPC peering. And most of the, ideally, whatever we run as data ops pipelines are run there. Like we enrich the data, we correlate the data, we apply all the machine learning models here. And there is another correlation that happens at this point, which is with the already existing AIOps solution at Johnson & Johnson, which is our signature solution at Johnson & Johnson, which was, which has gone into production just a few months ago. So this is where also most of those AWS services that Mahendra spoke about that runs. And at this point, there are a couple of decisions made. One, to either take that data back into our training models so that the accuracy of the models improves, or create those incidents and instantiate the virtual war room so that the next best actions could be taken. To bring this all into perspective, we have a recorded demonstration of what the solution looks like, and I would like to quickly run that through. So.
In this demo, we are going to see IBM Consulting Platform Services on AWS capabilities for J&J. Here, the Operations Hub of IBM Consulting Platform Services on AWS provides end-to-end observability and traceability for Johnson & Johnson's critical business processes. The combination of AWS services and IBM tools are implemented in this case for Johnson & Johnson's reporting process health. The IBM AIOps solution presents a unified observability dashboard highlighting both the application and infrastructure issues impacting the business process, along with the necessary context for effective issue resolution. The intelligent context correlation engine in the background dynamically stitches the end-to-end transaction context using otherwise disjointed statistics data from underlying SAP systems in near real time. Empowered with this end-to-end observability view, operators can now focus on resolving the root cause of issues rather than trying to react to symptoms in isolation. Application alerts appear to the right of the impacted process activity, and infrastructure alerts are to the left. Application alerts can be generated based on configurable usage thresholds, such as query runtime, memory, and CPU consumed. Operators can filter based on report or user name and drill down to the essential contextual information required for troubleshooting. The details include report name, user name, report query parameters, breakup of the time spent at every hop of the layer, and the remote statements executed along with individual query times. Incidents are automatically created in ServiceNow and triaged to appropriate assignment groups. With the Operations Hub generating tickets for every verified event, the incidents are managed, leveraging IBM's Virtual Command Center, the chat ops solution based on Amazon Lex, integrated with Microsoft Teams, the preferred collaboration tool at J&J. The chat ops module opens a virtual war room in a matter of seconds, with a quick summary of the ticket, predicted owner groups, engineers best fit to resolve the issue, similar incidents, and the solution recommended for the problem, along with any runbook executions that can be triggered. The bot draws upon the capabilities of Amazon Lex and the custom machine learning we have deployed in the AWS environment to accomplish this. Now, with all that feed, the engineer may choose to follow through with the steps recommended, executing runbooks as necessary, and mark them as resolved. In this example, the runbook does the job of increasing the CPU count from 1 to 2. Post this, a write back to ServiceNow is also done right from here. We now move on to the Insights Hub of IBM Consulting PSA. All the complex parsing that the Operations Hub performed atop the AWS environment resulted in the generation of alerts and ServiceNow tickets of a new kind. While the Operations Hub gives you a real-time or close to real-time view, the Insights Hub helps you with retrospective analysis. The Insights Hub is an extension of our existing AIOps solution for incident analytics and management at J&J. Here, you get to look at the query life cycles through a wide-angle lens, and with any additional contexts as required. There are 4 views that we specifically make available: flow-based, count-based, duration-based, and ticket-based. In the flow-based view, you see an aggregation of the alerts the Operations Hub generates, and the flows for each of those transactions. There are provisions available to drill down and dissect further, based on the filters of your choosing. You can filter by report name, query type per user, and even by application name. Any further details around the alerts that the Operations Hub generated are also made available in the table are here. In the count-based view, you see all the alerts from the queries based on alert count. These range from active queries, closed queries, long-running ones, and even a split between long-running and regular ones. In addition, analytics around regions, trends with forecasting, a distribution of the table combinations used in the queries, split between users, and reports with drill-through to parameters are also available. If there is any interest in finding the peak hours of the query executions for these reports, the heat map comes in handy. For example, in this instance, 2 a.m. past midnight and 2 p.m. are the peak hours for most reports. In the duration-based view, similar analytics are rolled out with duration as the aggregation measure. We see the average, maximum, and minimum duration for all the queries under context. Since the dashboard is dynamic, we get corresponding numbers for all the click-throughs. The ticket-based view enables you to analyze tickets generated for every threshold breach. It provides a view of the total tickets, the ones in an open state, tickets across every report, and drill downs to show how bad the breaches were in terms of time breached by over 30 minutes, over 20, 10, or even 5. Heat maps against each report and a detailed table to look for specifics are also made available. All of these insights are fed back into the Operations Hub as well, which will in turn reinforce problem identification and resolution. That concludes the end-to-end view of the IBM Consulting Platform Services on AWS for J&J. Thank you.
So just to kind of sum up the solution here, Atul spoke about challenges. He kind of bucketed them into 3 broad areas: observability, reliability, and reporting. So as far as our solution was concerned, you'll see there was an end-to-end tracking of the processes, detecting the anomalies, and analyzing the root cause in real time happened. And overall identification of the SLA breaches and what were those report runtimes that were impacting those SLA breaches. The capability to drill down to the nth level of root cause and correlating data from multiple sources and providing that single pane view. So, based on all of this, we, even though we do not have this solution running for a long time, as I'm speaking now, we did baseline a few KPIs and metrics at Johnson & Johnson, and we also looked at what we have as of now. And the benefits were mostly around the fact that how did we reduce, considerably reduce, in fact, MTTI, which is identify, detect, and resolve incidents in real time. How can we reduce the overall higher severity incidents caused due to performance issues that were related to these business critical applications for J&J. So Atul spoke about two major benefits that he was looking forward to as far as this solution is concerned. One was to improve the overall IT ops efficiency, which is what the benefits that we have already seen. The second was to see how this can bring the business benefits, those business challenges that he presented. So we are yet to get into and measuring those business impact as far as these IT ops efficiencies are concerned. But overall, this is the solution where we used IBM Consulting PSA, tailored that to Johnson & Johnson's technology stack and for their particular data-sensitive requirements. And these are the benefits that we already see with this. Now, what is our plan to scale this further? Not just at J&J, but we also are using this framework to see if we can scale this across application stacks for other clients as well. So it's about, first thing is about building that common operational data layer, which acts as the knowledge corpus here, and building those individual capabilities based on maturity of the client and where the clients are in their overall transformation journey. So whether we need to start by instrumenting the DevSecOps for them, building the automation and virtual command center capabilities, or it could be instrumenting observability, or AI directly, build those AI ML capabilities, right? But as we are, building out each of these solutions, it's important that we gather that data, ingest that into the knowledge corpus, train that data sets and data models, and build the automation capabilities that are needed so that it can feed back into a loop. The accuracy improves over time. So this is overall our solution and offering, IBM Consulting Platform Services on AWS. Again, to sum it up, it's just a product-driven, asset-driven offering with 70 to 80% of the capabilities coming out of the box, and you already saw how we tailored that to Johnson & Johnson's use cases. At this point, we can take any questions. I think we have 10 more minutes, around 10 minutes here on the clock. It can be also taken at the bar. I know you guys are probably waiting. The answers may be more accurate there, though, but anyways, just kidding. But we also have the option of reaching out to either myself or Mahendra. If you have any questions, we'll be also waiting outside. And you can visit our booth. It's 3235, if I'm not wrong. And we'll be there all week, so that if there are any questions around the offering or the solution at J&J, we can talk more about it as well. Thank you.